Alright, I want to edit this photo here from quite a while ago that I took that I never got around to getting done, and I really love the composition of this photo, but there is just a little bit too much sky on it. So we're going to go from start to finish editing this photo together in both Lightroom and Photoshop. So let's go into our develop panel, and the first thing I always like to do is get my crop correct. Now I tend to like to stick to certain things, so I think we're gonna go with, let's try 4.5 first and see if that's what we want. Now would we like 4.3 better? Maybe. I'm gonna try and keep down a bit. Let's see here. Feels pretty good, right? I'm trying to remember, right in here is where our middle is. The issue is that, let's go a little bit taller. Let's do like right there. I think that should be good. Yeah, and so already cropping it in gets us a really nice shot. Now, one thing that is a little unfortunate is this here. Now, I didn't have the ND filter on this guy. This was just a handheld shot at f8, 160 of a second, and ISO 800. But the good news about this one, while this looks blown out, we can tell that we have a lot of data still up there. And if we pull it down, that sky does come back. This was taken in probably October, no, I think September maybe, let's see. Yeah, September 2nd in 2018. And there was a fire going on at this time, and so we've got some haze up there that we will have to deal with. But let's kind of break this down and how I do things. The first thing I like to do is stick with my camera landscapes. I do sometimes edit with different LUTs that I have in here, and they're like varying in their styles, as you guys can see. But for what we're going to do right now, I like to stick to camera landscape and kind of work with what we've got in this photo, which this green is going to have to change, that's for sure. Let's see what doing automatic does. That does take us a little bit more in the right direction. As shot has a +9. It's just too green in this one. So let's take us back up to where we were. Let's go 7500 again on that automatic balance. And then let's start pushing in. See, what I'm looking at is, as I push this in, this kind of changes, and see how it's getting a little bit too pink. Let's try 16. 15 maybe? Yeah, let's leave it at 15. I think that'll be all right. Okay, so what I want to do is, we could sit here and pull our highlights down by 100 and all that, and while I think that is all well and good, we'll probably, let's kind of like leave that at, I don't know, let's see here. Let's put it like at 58, and let's come in here, and what we will do is we will grab, let's do a linear gradient, because I do think this still is a little bit bright, rather than just a sky. So let's do a linear gradient, and we'll go right about there. And let's go and see here, let's pull this guy down just a bit. Yeah. That's getting there. Maybe let's do like -0.3. And then let's take our highlights, since our highlights are only going to be up there. Yeah, something like that. Let's add a little dehaze too, just to see what it looks like. Now, let's see, 15 is going to be pretty heavy. Oh, but it does come in really nice. Look at that. Okay. So the only thing I do want to mess with, let's go to our shadows. Let's add like 10. Yeah, there we go. It's just to keep it from getting too crazy. It also kind of helps us with the light coming in, because if you notice, if I start pulling this guy down more, get a little bit too dark. Maybe we can go like that. Just like that. And you can see. That looks pretty good. Now this will be a little bit slow as we work with this, because it is going over a network. Because these files are so old, they're stored on my NAS, and I definitely... Oh my god, you know what? Poof, I got scared for a second. Usually this microphone turns off, and I was like, oh no, I think I've been recording without talking this whole time, but we are good. Or without having the mic on. Now see, I think a lot of people tend to try and flatten these things out a lot, and I just don't think it needs that much. Like maybe just a little bit, as we try and like bring some, trying to basically push these out a little bit, stretch this out a little bit, makes our blacks a little darker. And then what about the overall image? Yeah, I like that. Now I do want to fix some of this too and add just like a little bit of a bump to it to draw the eye, because I feel like it adds a lot to it. So what we'll do is we'll hold shift and we will click once. And then we'll go over here while still holding shift and click again. And I'll just draw a nice straight line across it. Now one thing too I do want to do is just add a little bit into the water there where we're getting it. So we catch all of it, maybe just a little bit right there. Maybe just a hair more there too. Okay. And now let's go with like 0.25. That's a little bright. Let's do 0.1. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Now what if we add some just warmth to it? What happens? I do like adding warmth to it. I think that really does help us. Let's do like 25 warm. Yeah. Let's just see here. Brings us, yeah, I like that. Kind of brings that in. It might still be a little bit much. What if we did like 0.5? Oh my goodness, that's not what I wanted to do. 0.05. That was too much. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. Okay, and then let's go in and now let's work. So in this panel here, I try and stay away from some of this stuff. I think if we're going to add texture, what we want to do is we just want to add texture into this guy up here, just the top of it. So we will grab another linear gradient. We're just going to pull it down just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say subtract, and we are going to select the sky. That way, it pulls our sky out. We can also say, this may not work. Let's see. Let's subtract a luminance range. Let's see if we grab like shadows. Not really. That's not really going to work. So we could delete the luminance range. And let's just see what happens. It may not be that bad. I'm not going to go crazy with this. So let's just add like 20 texture to it. Let's zoom in and see if we can see what that did. My thing I want to do is, now this is a D750 this was taken with, so it's not like the greatest. Now that brought enough in. Yeah, I don't mind that much. Now, I didn't want to bring it into the sky because the sky is a whole nother thing. I think we're going to leave that. So, let's go and crank that off. And then we will, let's see, usually I like to turn the clarity down slightly. It's because I always think it's a little bit too much. It gives it kind of a nice dreamy look to it. Usually -30 is as much as I would go. And -30 is quite aggressive, so let's do -20. Yeah, let's do the -20. That looks good. Now, dehaze, we can try and see. Sometimes adding just a little bit of it gives you that punch that you're looking for, and that does kind of bring that in. We'll leave the saturation and vibrance the way they are for now. Tone curve, there's quite a bit of contrast in this. Adding a medium contrast, I think it's going to fight with us. I don't really think there's a whole lot we want to do to that. I think we're going to leave it at linear contrast. It just doesn't add there. Sometimes I like to use some of these old Visco film curves that I have on here. They're a little bit easier if you add them over here. As you can see, they add a lot of style to it, which is a little bit heavy for my taste right now. I'm just not feeling it. Like, this is kind of cool, but we can add our own fade if we really want to. So for now, I think we'll leave it where it's at. Let's go ahead and grab our color mixer, and I like to use the point color more than the actual mixer itself. So let's grab a good green that we want to change. Let's go over here. Maybe. Here we go. This is like that electric green I don't really like. And then we can visualize the range. Kind of crank it up a little bit. This is going to help us. We'll turn that off so we can look around and kind of see. Now, usually I like to turn it a little bit more towards yellow. So we take some of that green out. You can kind of shift that saturation down just a couple points. And let's see. I kind of do like it a little bit more lightened up, I think. Like maybe 4 or 5 points 6. There we go. You can see what that does. That just kind of brings it in. Now, the next thing I want to do is come in here and grab this guy. Let's visualize that range. Now, it is working on it up here a little bit. Can we restrict that? Not really. That's okay. We'll pull it down just a hair. Then let's see what we got here. Let's maybe move it. Turn that off. Let's maybe move it. Oh, let's not go that far. Just a little bit like that. A little bit more towards red. Let's see, and it is kind of helping us anyway with the trees up here, which is really nice. It's giving us a little bit of a luminance boost with where the sun's coming across, so that's kind of good. I think that looks all right. Last thing is, generally these blues I like to shift around. Visualize that range. Yeah. Okay, and then I like to shift them just a little bit more towards cyan. Sometimes they appear a little bit purple. We can kind of desaturate it just a bit. Yeah, what do we think? I think we'll leave the luminance where it's at. But that way it just kind of takes it from being that electric blue a little bit off the edge. You can see this is where we started, and this is kind of where we are. And I like this a lot better. This feels a lot more warm, feels a lot more rich. We can see if we don't. This still, it doesn't feel that aggressive. I want it to kind of draw attention, right? So we got this sandwich of bright, dark, bright, dark, bright. And that's kind of what I want to do with it, is sandwich that in there. I don't really think we're going to dodge and burn any of this here. Now, one thing that we did like, and I do, is I like to add a little bit of what I call muddying up the shadows. So I have a preset made, and what we'll do is we'll just take this and just cover the whole screen with a mask, and then come in here to my presets, and I call it this film fade kind of look. We'll see how that looks. There it goes. And it is aggressive. Let's do like 50 and see if that gives us any, a little bit less. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I kind of like it with the dark black. So I think we won't use that this time around. Don't delete all masks. Oh man. Okay. And then from there, we can come down. We can do some detail. I usually have a preset, but what we'll do is we'll just kind of click this guy. And I'm going to hold Alt while I grab the amount slider. And you can't see it probably on YouTube, but look in here where it's black and white, and you'll kind of see how it goes fuzzy to clear. You can get as aggressive as you want with it. Let's go right there. Radius, you can see that's kind of how far away from those lines it's going to go. And then our detail is going to add a little bit of that. And then we'll mask it just so we don't go crazy with it. Yeah, something probably like right there. Boom. That'll give us a little bit of sharpening. Very good. Color grading. Sometimes I like to come in and mess with these. The stock ones are usually good starting points. As you can see as we click on these, they look a little bit goofy. Typically, I just see this is just a little bit too much for me. One place it might be good is highlights, because we have a lot of blue. Yeah, see that? Now if we add some blue to it, that blue just gets a little bit more prominent. I do like that. Okay. So we got that lens corrections. I'm not entirely sure there's a whole lot it's going to do. This was, yeah, we'll clip it on there. That's all right. I also love these little trees in here. They're kind of neat. And then let's see. I think that probably should be good. So now let's go ahead and go into Photoshop. Let's edit in here. We're going to edit as a smart object. That way when we edit it as a smart object in Photoshop, we still have that raw file if we want to come in and make any changes. Now, there wasn't really another option when you're doing one of these. You could edit just a copy, I guess. But for what we're doing, this is going to work perfectly. Okay, and then we can see. Yeah, that's nice. Very good. For being shot at ISO 800, it's pretty good. Really, really nice. Okay, very good. All right. So now we're going to take this, and one thing, you can over-edit a lot of stuff, and I have very much been guilty of that over the years. So I always tend to, I do like to play with color, but I'm not very good with I know I'm not very good with just color harmonies and things like that. So I like to use this plugin called Infinite Color, because I know it when I see it when you like something, right? You just know it when you see it. And Infinite Color, oh my gosh, I have so many things open. Infinite color just makes it really, really nice and easy for me to click through it. I have a couple ones that I've saved here, and we can see what they do. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. That one's not bad, but I think we can do better. And so what you do, I usually come in here, I take this intensity slider down, I hit create, it'll look terrible. And what you can see it does is it creates a folder here with all the different lookups and gradient maps and curves and things like that. And so we'll come back in here, I turn them off and do them one at a time. You can just keep clicking create and see. They also have a harmonize and black and white and all this stuff. I don't have the license for black and white because I just don't do it. This one, I haven't really used a whole ton. I haven't found it to be that useful for me yet. But we'll just keep clicking through this until we find something that kind of speaks to us. And see what I mean? That one's a little bit too greedy. The other nice thing is you can come in here and turn them down. And so we can come and turn that to 50%. And it's making the greens a little bit too green again. Keep clicking that guy until we find something that we like. Okay, what about this one? Yeah, I'm liking this guy. Okay, we'll leave that. Then we'll turn the color balance on, and again, it's going to look terrible. I'll come in here and I'll turn that at 50%. It usually is pretty good. Then we'll just click around until we find something that really fits us, which, yeah, kind of makes things adds a little bit of purple to everything. I wonder if we want to like turn that down a little bit more. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Then we'll go to selective color. Holy moly. This one I usually like to have at like 15% because it seems to be pretty aggressive. And then you can always adjust from there. See, now that's nice. It adds this kind of nice little haze to it, but ooh. Yeah, that warms it up nice. Let's do like 10. Yeah. And see, this is where we're at, right? It's given us just a little bit more look and color to it. I don't really use gradient map that much. I don't also use color lookup that much. It can help. But one thing I do, now that we have this all done, one thing I like to do next is I generally like to break out my contrasts. So I have my shadows, my midtones, and my highlights. I have two ways of doing that. The first way is you can use this tool here, and you can click these guys, and it gives you your regions, your highlights, your shadows, and your midtones. Then we can come into those guys. I usually, because I am terrible at clicking, I usually click on that point that I just made, and then I usually kind of click up and down to see what that does. And that is quite a bit aggressive. Let's see. So we got here, right? Pulls our shadows down just a little bit, which is kind of nice. Okay, we'll leave that. Then this is our midtones. You can come in here, and like I said, easy way to do it is to grab it and see what it does. And I kind of like it. What do we want to do here? Kind of like it like that, right? Maybe we go up slightly, because if it's too, oh, I do kind of like it a little bit brighter, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I do kind of like that. So that just makes our midtones lift a little bit. It feels like there's a little more light on it. And then we'll come up and do our highlights, and I'll show you another little trick that I do. That's kind of nice. Again, you can, if you want to do perfect, I have a midpoint that I started on it, or you can just click and drag it sometimes so we can see. Yeah, let's see. You can see this is, so when we drag over here, it's really affecting it, but when we drag over here, it's not as effective. That's because it's only targeting this little region, right? Because we're on our highlights. So this is a great example. So we pulled it down and all this color came back, right? Well, if you don't want that color to happen, you can change that layer to a luminosity layer, and then it will only, let's see if I can blending change. You can kind of see it, right? When I click between these two, the color's up here. If we look, let me zoom in a bit because it might not show up on YouTube very well. When we come up here, let me close that guy. See how it changes? And that's because when I change it to luminosity, it is only affecting the luminance value of the contrast rather than the color as well. with that curve, and that can help out sometimes. Like I said, I don't know if I really enjoy that much. Maybe just a little bit, right? Yeah. And that's just a way for you to refine the contrast based on region if you wanted to. Another way you can do it as well is to create luminosity masking, and maybe we'll do that another time, but I think for right now we're doing pretty good. Let's go and do, one thing I do want to try now that I'm thinking about it. Let's go Alt Control Shift E just to make a stamped layer for a second. I'm going to select like Darks 4. Hopefully. Yeah, okay. So we're going to make a luminance mask, and then I guess what I'll do is I'll turn that into a curves layer. And then inside that curves layer, I'm going to do my 3-point, and then like, this is where I can add just that little bit of lift in the blacks. Yeah, 15. Maybe that's good. I always never want to go too far with this. Right there at 12. Another thing you can do as well is kind of make that curve go down just a bit. Something like that. 'Cause I want it to be like that thick wood feel, right? Yeah, I like that. That adds a nice velvety texture to it. Keeps it from going too far to the blacks. And right there is pretty good. Sometimes I'll go into color effects and I'll do a dark and light and center on it, but in this case, I think it looks pretty good. I love the play that we have in all of this. We can flatten this because we're fine with it. And yeah, I really like that. I think that's a really nice, natural looking way to approach this. Is we got the trees are nice, we got this different tree here, couple little different color greens, but they're not green, right? And then we also have a sky that is nice and blue, as best as we can. And we've got that nice morning light coming in. You can see right here where I was talking about that smoke. This is some of that smoke that's in the air, and that's why it's a little bit of a different color. But I really like that. I think it looks great, and that was just a nice, simple edit. And that's kind of the goal that I want with all these editing videos, is that we edit something together and we just kind of let it be what it is. I have had a pretty rough history with kind of over-editing and letting a lot of influence come in from other people's photography and not listening to what I like. And so this is really about me being able to edit the way that I want to, and hopefully it can either inspire some people to do the same, teach some people, and maybe we can all make some better photos. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Maybe we'll print this one, maybe we won't, we'll see. But at the end of the day, I really enjoy the composition on this and the grade that we were able to come up with. As a matter of fact, before we go, why don't we go back into Lightroom and we can take a look at this file. We will create a virtual copy. We will kind of, let's do this because now the virtual copy doesn't, oh no, it is edited. There we go. What we'll do is we will reset this virtual copy. Quick. And then we'll go here, grab this guy. We will sync it, but all we will sync is the crop. That way we can do our comparison here. This guy, and then we drag and drop a photo. There we go. So we can see, let me get those off. Kind of what we did here, right? This was a little bit too green, just green for me, right? And we brought in and kind of made it a little bit more mustardy colored, a little bit more yellow in those greens. Tried to bring out the prominence here in the shoreline with that beautiful grass that we have there. And then we pulled down the highlights and added a little bit of texture here so we can see, right? It's a lot more clear. We got cut through some of that haze. And for being a 24 megabyte file or megapixel file, it's pretty good detail up there. There's not a whole lot better that we can do for that. Doing in at 100%. So yeah, there we go. There's our before and after. Again, thank you guys for watching, and a lot more to come. Stick around. We'll get to it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.